Hey guys, LEGO Master 365 here, and today we're doing something that we haven't done in quite a while. We're finally coming back into doing a model review. I think the last one I did was probably like Peter, Sam, or Daisy, or one of those engines, but that was like 2 years ago, something like that. And today we finally have a new model to review. Now, it's not actually a locomotive, it's actually a piece of rolling stock, and that piece of rolling stock is this. The Lionel HO scale Strasburg Gondola No. 102. Now, this is a weird looking car, and it did actually exist in real life. Strasburg did actually have a 102 coach. I'm saying coach and not gondola, even though they brand it as a Strasburg Gondola, because Strasburg used this as a coach back in like the 60s or 70s or something like that. There's like a couple of pictures floating around on the internet. But this is a real car that they had. They don't use it anymore. I think its frames are pretty much all that's left, but this is, in fact, a real car. Now, this is a weird thing for Lionel to release, obviously because, first of all, it's in HO scale. And that's kind of the one thing that makes it, like, the weirdest thing. This is just part of their general range of HO scale gondolas. This is just kind of like a standard design that they just slapped the Strasburg name onto. But that's just kind of Lionel's thing, really. But it's just weird that they did it in HO scale. Now, obviously, Strasburg, no, not Strasburg, obviously Lionel has the Strasburg Railroad road name license for O-gauge, hence why they have the Legacy 90 and 89 and 31, I believe they have as well, and 8618. No 475 yet. And they also have a bunch of the passenger cars to go with it, and they do a couple of releases of rolling stock with the Strasburg name, especially with Train World exclusive rolling stock names. I actually did pick this up at Train World, or Trainland specifically. I was in the store the other day, and I decided to pick this up. They retail it at Trainland for $25.99, which is a decent price for a piece of rolling stock. It's decently cheap. But let's stop talking about the general stuff, and let's actually get into the review. Now, I've already opened up this wagon, or coach, or whatever you want to call it, so my thoughts aren't first impressions as I usually do them. Obviously, we have the Lionel box, and we'll just talk about the art real quick. You know, it's very basic. It just says, you know, Lionel HO. There's really no information on the car other than just the end on this side. It just tells you the general stuff. It tells you what it has. It has metal wheels, metal knuckle couplers, and weighted for reliable operation. So that's good. It comes in this two-part packaging. I don't know exactly what it's called. I think it's called dimple packaging because it has these like little dimple pieces here, and it's on the four corners, and it keeps it nice and protected. And here we go. Now, right off the bat, this is actually on the heavier side, which is something that I wasn't expecting from Lionel, because I do have a couple of pieces of Lionel HO rolling stock. Namely, I have the HO Polar Express set, and I'm looking to get more cars to add on to that just so I can make the full train. But that is incredibly light, the Polar Express set. I also have one of their wooden cabooses in their Long Island paint, and that is pretty much entirely plastic. So that is a very, very light piece of rolling stock, and it's not the best, but I have it. So, first thing of major note is how heavy this car is, and that is down to the chassis. So this whole black chassis part right here is actually die-cast metal, and you can see from this, it's decently thick in some places. It's really nice and adds a lot of weight to this car. Like this, generally, you don't need to add a load in here or anything to give it any extra weight, because this absolutely is all that it needs. It'll be perfectly stable on your tracks, and I really can't think of anything a decent, better weighted car, because I don't think I have anything ready to run that matches this weight. This is a really good for a car, so immediate perk on that point. But then it kind of loses it in terms of detail, especially as I'm sure you guys can see off the bat. There's a pretty noticeable seam line in the two halves of the upper plastic body. If you just ignore that, the printing on this is really nice. The paint is pretty nicely applied. There's really no defects, anything in the paint. Other side is the same as the front. The only way you can tell which side is which is this little handbrake right here, which is plastic and decently flimsy. Now, as it said on the box, it does include metal knuckle couplers. which is actually really nice because I don't think the other HO stuff, like the Caboose that I have and the Polar Express, have metal knuckles. I don't think so. So that's a good mark on their point. Like I said before, the lettering is all applied super crisp. I'm pretty sure you can read all of that if you look close enough. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can get that. Yeah, it's all pretty legible. You can read it all. So. Now, my one big gripe with this car is actually the trucks and its rolling capabilities. So, first off, if you look at most bogeyed passenger cars or any rolling stock, usually they have some, obviously they have the side-to-side play so you can, go around corners, but usually they also have a little bit of like up and down play to kind of help navigate bumps and stuff. And for older rolling stocks, such as like older Bachmann or Tyco, you'll notice sometimes as they're rolling along, they tend to just kind of like wobble back and forth like this, like super fast as they're going along. So Lionel's solution to this was to completely negate the ability to do that. So there's a very tiny amount of side-to-side play, like that up and down kind of motion. It's almost completely negated. Now, when it's rolling, straight along, that's pretty much fine. It makes it a nice stable runner. I actually did run it in a train with a bunch of older rolling stock that just was wobbling side to side the whole time, and this looked rock solid, which is really nice. But I do worry how that may affect it on bad laying of track and track joints and stuff like that. I don't know if it's going to make it really more noticeable, but basically there's no suspension in this thing, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. There's also the problem that this rolls really badly. I don't know if you can really tell, obviously, because it's a pretty solid standard wheel all around, but it does not like to roll very quickly. It is a lot of friction, and that is a problem if you're free rolling stuff, and it adds a lot of drag to your train. Just for comparison, I have here a Rapido Diagram 88 LNWR van. This is a new release from Rapido. I think it probably came out around the same time that this did. I don't know exactly when this came in stock, but this is a new release, I know that. This is also a new release, as you can see I weathered it. This is more expensive than this, and it's a lot lighter because this is all plastic compared to the die-cast chassis. I believe this retails for somewhere in the range of, I want to say on Rails of Sheffield, it's like 30 pounds, which is probably like $35, $36 USD. But the one major difference with this is that Rapido adds bearings into all of their wagons. So if we take a closer look at these wagon wheels, and if we'll put it on its side here like this, so you can really just see and get the least amount of friction possible, so it's only resting on here. This will roll for a very long time. I've tested this without holding it and just let it go, and it ran on its own for about a minute. And if we do even stand it upright, you can see that it's still rolling and rolling and rolling, and it takes a very long time to slow down. Is it gonna stop? There it goes. So this is a really peak performance wagon. It will just go with like no effort whatsoever. Meanwhile, this, it's actually rolling off the table. This has a lot of trouble. I'm really having to like push it with a lot more force to get it to move. So the axles basically are just really firm into their axle boxes, and they could probably do with a little bit of grease or oil. And I do have some oil, so I'll probably put that on there, but it's really not a solution for the long term. Now, the other bigger issue I see with this is actually the color all around. As we can see here, I have an older HO scale roundhouse Strasburg coach. So this is just a general design of old style coaches that Roundhouse used to put Strasburg paint on it. This is coach number, Coach number 20. This is the William M. Moedinger coach with the Maryland and Pennsylvania road name on it. This is how it looks in present day. So this is like the present day version. They have a couple of other versions, and you can see the red is a lot darker compared to the Lionel Strasburg one. So maybe this is just a difference between manufacturers, and maybe Strasburg's right and Roundhouse is wrong. Roundhouse doesn't even make these coaches anymore, so who's to say? Well, Bachmann's to say, because earlier this year, Bachmann re-released their 44-ton switcher, and they added a Strasburg Railroad model number 33. Now this is an actual Strasburg locomotive. I think they still have it. I don't really know if they do anymore or not. But either way, this is one of their earlier diesel locomotives, as you can see it by the number 33. I believe it was probably their third locomotive. It was probably purchased after 31, I imagine, since this has the number 33. Probably sometime, I don't know exactly when they got, but either way, this is a real locomotive that they have or had. So it's actually a really decent representation, especially considering this is just a Bachmann repaint. But this is also, by the way, the first ready-to-run HO scale Strasburg locomotive, that I can find at least, like with the official Strasburg Railroad name on it. We still don't have anything for 90 or 475 or 89. There is a ready-to-run model of 8618 that was made by Proto 2000 a long time ago. But there's really no ready-to-run Strasburg-specific locomotive, so this is like the first one. And as you can see, the red matches a lot closer to the roundhouse paint compared to the Lionel paint. The Lionel is still a lot brighter. But again, who's to say? Maybe maybe Lionel was right.
Hey, this is Editor Matt. I'm looking at the photo of the Cinder Catcher coach, and it's definitely a lighter red. There is one of the normal coaches Strasburg has, like the one that looks like the Maryland, Pennsylvania coach, right behind it. And it's definitely a darker red compared to the Cinder Catcher. Granted, this photo's from the 60s, so the paint is darker and is different from what we have today, but it's still a darker red. So I think Lionel actually is closer, but the paint also looks faded on this picture, so I don't know if the coach is actually supposed to look like this, or I don't know what happened, but either way, I think Lionel was actually pretty close.
But seeing the coaches in person, I would say that I would probably trust Bachmann and Roundhouse over Strasburg. And just knowing, Lionel in general, I wouldn't really trust their paint choices. But either way, it's really cool to have, proper, ready-to-run, easily accessible now, Strasburg rolling stock, because obviously the Roundhouse brand hasn't run Strasburg coaches since probably the mid-2000s. I don't know exactly when they stopped making them, but these are really hard to come by nowadays. So having ready-to-run Strasburg stuff is really fun. Bachmann is also going to continue to be making Strasburg rolling stock. As announced in their 2024 catalog, they're going to be making newer, longer-styled 1800s coaches, and 2 of those coaches they're going to be putting into Strasburg paint, so you will eventually be able to have a full rake of HO scale Strasburg stuff. Now, this is my personal opinion, completely unrelated to this car, but I hope that means that we may be getting some proper HO scale Strasburg steam locomotives as well. Broadway Limited is doing a Train World exclusive run of their consolidation in the 90 paint. And if you know anything about 90 and you know anything about wheel configuration names, consolidation and Strasburg 90 should not be in the same sentence, but that's why it's a Train World exclusive. It's not meant to be an official product. I don't know why I'm taking this one away, because this is what we're actually supposed to be talking about. So overall, this is a nice representation of a Strasburg coach. It's a very unique coach, very specific to a very specific Strasburg time period, and it's just kind of an interesting piece of rolling stock to make into Strasburg paint. Because obviously this lasted for a very short period of time in the early preservation days, and as regulations got more and more strict, they did have to move to regular coaches. So for Lionel to just do this of their own volition and make a gondola and do it in the Strasburg paint is really neat, and I'm kind of glad they did it, because I didn't even know about this car until I played a Roblox game called The Last Spike. So there's some more Strasburg knowledge for you. So for them to announce this just after I found out that this car existed in the first place, I think it's really cool. So if you just want a nice little Strasburg rolling stock piece of, or a nice piece of Strasburg rolling stock for your HO layout so you can run some Strasburg trains, I would recommend this. If you're a more serious modeler who wants their nice free-rolling trains and everything to be in matching paint and for it to be super high detailed, I wouldn't get this if I were you. I did get this because I like to have fun when I make my trains, so just having some neat novelty cars doesn't really bother me every now and again. But when it comes to my proper official layouts and making my prototypical trains, you can see I spring for the higher end stuff, and I do, you know, little weathering jobs and all that stuff. So that's enough rambling about this car. I've been rambling for a very long time, and I'm sure you guys want to see how this runs. So let's put together a very tiny train with 33, and this Strasburg coach. I actually have two, so we'll run two. And while we're down in the layout, I'll show you the power of DCC. Because the Strasburg 33 comes equipped with DCC sounds and, you know, all the little functions. So we'll have a little bit of fun with that as well. So we'll see you down in the layout.